for my brother.
Anytime Maritime.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Anytime Maritime. And thank you for tuning in. How are you? I hope you're having a great day. I am having a great day, and I have with me, as you can see, guests from Vessel Tracker. Yay! So maybe I'll introduce them quickly. I have here David Houston of Vessel Tracker, who flew all the way from Germany, right?
Yep.
And then I have Scott and May Gurley, who are based out of the Philippines. Yeah. From Batangas. We're here to talk about Vessel Tracker. This is an AIS, and we will talk about it in detail later on. But I would like to start by saying how this came about. So in the operation of our domestic ships connected to the Philippine Islands, we have partnered with Vessel Tracker in the operation of our ships to improve safety, using data for investigation, for geofencing, etc., etc. And you will learn that in this episode. So before we start, David, would you like to start? And please introduce yourself and what Vessel Tracker is.
Sure. So my name is David Houston. I'm the head of data at vesseltracker.com. I've been with Vessel Tracker for 12 years, and I've known Marianne Pastrana for 10 of those years. We met at a conference, the Worldwide Ferry Safety Association conference in New York, and then very quickly started collaborating in the Philippines. So briefly, Vessel Tracker, we have a global network of terrestrial AIS stations. They receive the signals, so every vessel has an AIS transponder on board, every commercial vessel, and then a lot of other vessels as well have an AIS transponder on board that transmits information like its position, its speed, its heading, its name, its destination port, which is all real. That was originally introduced for navigational safety, so that vessels in the area could figure out who they were, possibly going to collide with, and then make sure they avoided those collisions. But then Vessel Tracker and other companies started taking all that data, putting it together, and using it for maritime operations. We're also using it for lots of different applications that people weren't originally intending, but it's very exciting. And through that, we started collaborating with FastCat because we saw that this is a really useful tool for especially their safety team was the initial application, that they could have people on the shore support their captains and help them make decisions, look at the situation, help them figure out what are other vessels seeing, are they interacting with really difficult weather, are the currents dragging them over, and they could support their captains from the shore and share that experience. But there's lots of other applications that are really exciting. So Vessel Tracker has, as of present, several thousand terrestrial AIS stations. We are part of Wood Mackenzie, which is another company that does energy consultancy. And we are looking forward to, we have some big news to report in the Philippines, but maybe we'll save that for later on. Yes. So that you guys stay tuned. But we have some really interesting news in the Philippines that just happened today that we'll report, but lots of exciting stuff going on with us.
Yeah, we're going to share the good news that Vessel Tracker has given the Philippines through the Philippine Coast Guard. But yes, we'll save it for later. Yeah. Let us meet Scott and May Gurley, and they are the ones installing antennas all over the Philippines. So come on, tell them about what you do.
Okay, my name's Scott. I'm originally an Australian, but I've been living in the Philippines now for 9 years. I've worked for Vessel Tracker for, I think, a little over 6 years. And my job in the Philippines is to both business develop and find new hosts, but also to primarily to keep the network running. So we have around 63 antennas now in the Philippines, and that's my job to keep them operational.
Nice. May, tell us about what you do aside from making Scott happy.
We travel together, and then we fix offline antennas all over Philippines. Yeah, and then that's it.
No, she undersells herself. May's job is the key one in the Philippines, and she's the one that makes our Philippine network very successful. She's the one that makes all the phone calls to all our hosts.
Parang hair ni ate.
To make she's the one. She makes all the phone calls.
So
to
all the coordination, translation, when
Yep.
they install antennas all over the Philippines.
I solve the problems, but she actually fixes them.
And I'll just comment that most of the listeners here, viewers, are in the Philippines. Typhoon Odette, which I guess was 2022, had a very significant impact. It caused a lot of damage to our vessel tracker network, and Scott and May spent a couple of months, I think it took, for you guys to travel all over.
We were away from home more than we were actually there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
For I think 3 months of travel.
Yeah, but essentially, I would say 3/4 of our network was, at least 3/4 was impacted.
Because that's a form of communication too, right?
Everything from Surigao on Mindanao to Matnog, and right through the middle, all antennas in Visayas were lost.
So people in the room, Anytime Maritimers, we've been telling everybody that we started this Anytime Maritime advocacy to talk about anything maritime, David, and especially the young people who are studying the maritime transportation course or maritime high school, so that they get to know more about the maritime industry, what we do, and all of this network that we have, because there's just too much to learn, too much to know. And so today, this is a very, very important topic, because this automatic identification system, or what Vessel Tracker provides, doesn't only help us in the vessel operations in our country, but this is global, right? You are helping the global industry, not limited to maritime, but also you are saying energy. And we know that now there's a saying that data is the new gold, right, David?
Yeah.
All of this data, whatever we capture, this is the new gold. If we have data, then we become better. We can be operationally efficient. We're safer. It can support maritime investigation, accident investigation. It can help sales and marketing teams come up with plans to do better again. So AIS is so important. And David was saying how we met, 10 years ago. People and Anytime Maritimers, allow me to share that story. So I spoke in a conference in New York for worldwide ferry safety, talking about the modernization of the Fast Cat fleet in the Philippines and the impact it has done for the Philippines. And during cocktail time, this guy approached me and said, "Hey, Marianne, I looked at your website. I looked at where you operate, and you can be my antenna partner." And I go, what's that? And so when he explained it to me, we started the ball rolling. And so that's when we signed up using Vessel Tracker in our operations, as I mentioned in the beginning, as an added layer of our operations and for our safety. And more than that, so much more. So like You know how ships are not cheap. It's expensive, so we need funders or banks to finance the ships. And when we tell them of this feature, they're very happy, because if they fund the ships, they want to be able to check if the ships are really working. If it's really there, baka naman tumakbo na kami. Baka we run away with the ships. But with this feature, they're able to see where the ship is operating, the speed, real time. And so all this data is so important in operating ships. And so today, David is here in the Philippines because he said the good news.
Yeah.
What is that good news, David? Tell the Filipino people.
Yeah. So this morning, I'm happy to announce that we have signed an MOU with the Philippines Coast Guard. Through that MOU, we will be cooperating with the Coast Guard. Yes, a lot of work for everyone here at this table and some people who aren't at this table to make this happen. But through the MOU, we will be providing Coast Guard officials with free access to vesseltracker.com. And in return, we'll be installing our equipment, our AIS stations around the Philippines at Coast Guard locations. So the really exciting thing is that this is not just something that will benefit the Coast Guard. It's not just something that will benefit Vessel Tracker. It'll benefit the whole industry in the Philippines. So everyone will have real-time information, much better real-time information about what's going on. But as Marianne was also saying, it's part of a global effort to understand shipping. And because shipping is such a key, 90% of global trade happens with shipping, this is going to be actually a really great benefit for global understanding of our energy networks, about our commodity networks. So it really, really is exciting. As Marianne was mentioning, for example, when you, with an AIS track, an insurer, for example, can differentiate between a ferry that's operating in a very safe manner and a ferry that's operating in a not so safe manner. So through this visibility, we can say, okay, here are the ferry operators who are, taking care when there's a stormy situation, who are adjusting their operating schedule, who are not charging headfirst into shallow waters and possibly running aground. And not only, Marianne's team and the FastCat team can use that information, obviously, for their own safe operations, but they can also prove, it's a proof to funders, to insurers that, hey, we're actually doing things the right way. And that's the kind of, business that we want to support at Vessel Tracker as well. And we also want to give an incentive to operators around the world to operate safely. And to provide some transparency. And I think it's really interesting. I mean, before there was AIS, really there was not much in the way of tracking. There was noon reports on the big commercial vessels. So that meant that once a day, the captain would call home essentially and say, this is my position. And AIS was a moment where suddenly there was lots and lots of data. And so it's taken actually the industry some time to figure out what is everything that we can do with it. And there's so many things that you can do with it, as we've been talking about the safety side. But for example, another application we were talking about was, looking at consumption of energy. We can actually look at the AIS track and we can see, how fast vessels are traveling. If there's a way that we can optimize the fuel spend, and we can even compare it with other data, as Marianne I may have talked about, they have onboard measurement devices, and so you can put all that data together and you can really put a dent in greenhouse gas emissions. You can trim fuel expenses and you can pass those savings on to the customer potentially. So lots of exciting things that come out of that.
Yeah, quite exciting because now we are being very data driven, data centric. Mm-hmm. And, we can do so much more. Of course, we want fuel savings, operational efficiency. And in doing that, that means better business. That means better also for the marine environment. Yeah. Because if we are efficient, then we have lesser emission. And of course, as you were saying, we're incorporating all the other technologies with this, in our operation. So now let's hear from Scott and May and their experience with installing the Vessel Tracker antennas and what you see the benefit it did for the people that are using it in the area.
I think the benefit we should cover first is the knowing, like we've all been saying, the data, knowing where your vessel is, knowing how fast it is, and travelling, is it going the right route?
Yeah.
How is that a benefit for the paying customer? Obviously, if the ferry is being operated safely with the use of vessel tracker, then your trip is safer. So there's a lot of benefits like that. You say something.
I'm speechless because I'm a shy.
Shy daw siya, pero she's the alas behind the Scott. And you see now, our tagline is fast cat, very safe, very fast, very convenient. And it's just right that if we're talking about very safe, we have to have these safety measures in place, and this is definitely one of it, no vessel tracker. And they were saying that it's safe when you see this because we have data, the speed, the time it left. We were actually excited in opening up this data to our customers so that they can actually also see the time. The way they have it in airlines.
Yeah.
What time the plane took off and what time it landed. We are getting there in the maritime industry. We're working on that, working on in the infrastructure so that our passengers, our customers, loading, rolling cargo, their offices, their logistic managers can actually use this feature so that it can help their business and they can plan ahead.
I mean, that's part of the very convenient, I would say.
Exactly.
That
part of the very convenient promise, brand promise.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us about that. How are the other customers leveraging on that the feature of having vessel tracker in their operations?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to speak about. But if we think about maritime operations, I mean, there's a lot about, if we were to put it in succinctly, it's all about how can I make the most of my assets and how can I make the most of my time. So very common in the shipping industry, there's delays. And if there's a delay, you really want to know about that delay as quickly as possible. And it costs a lot of money for a port and for employees to be, at the terminal, at the berth, all ready to go. And then suddenly the vessel's not there. And now you're paying for people to wait around. There's lots of time wasted. So, I mean, that's really been right from day one. One of the biggest wins for people in Vessel Tracker. I mean, I think it would be kind of cool to talk about some of the more exotic applications that we've seen. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, a lot of the internet in the world is transported via these subsea cables. There's cables that go along, between these different fiberglass cables that connect and really are where the internet is connected from country to country around the world.
Under the sea.
Under the sea,
Okay.
yeah. And those cables can be damaged if a fishing trawler, for example, goes by dragging its nets. It can damage the cable, or if a tanker drops its anchor right on the subsea cable.
Yeah.
So what we found was we had people who were very interested in getting AIS data from around these locations, and if something happened, they would essentially have an insurance policy. They said, okay, this tanker dropped its, shifted its status to anchored, and then my cable went out. That's evidence of what happened. Or if a fishing trawler was going back and forth, and then it crossed over. So that's the reactive side. On the proactive side, there's services that take this data, and they have 24-hour teams that are using this data and monitoring the cables. And if any vessel gets a bit too close, they can call up the owners and the managers and use it as part of a proactive system so that these cable breaks don't happen. So that was pretty interesting. And then as Marianne mentioned, Vessel Tracker is actually part of a company called Wood Mackenzie. Wood Mackenzie is an energy consultancy. And the mission actually of Wood Mackenzie is to guide organizations through the energy and materials transition. We have climate change happening. We have the world is not as it was, and so people and organizations need guidance. They make investments here. They want to have some data to back it up. I mean, it really is all about data and analysis. And Wood Mackenzie is using Vessel Tracker in many different areas. For example, installation of wind, offshore wind. There's a lot of operations vessels that are, involved in bringing the equipment out, in jacking up the towers, and connecting it all up. And so our analysts are using the Vessel Tracker data to see what those operations vessels are doing. They're using the data, analyzing coal power. All the coal power plants that are on the water, they have vessels delivering coal there, and they need to understand, okay, where's that coal coming from? How does that fit into the global coal market? Because all of these energy systems are all interconnected. We have gas tankers that are where most of the world's gas that's internationally traded is, a lot of it's going through pipelines, but a lot of it is going through vessels as well. So the Wood Mackenzie team is using the Vessel Tracker data to understand these markets, and then they're helping really guide organizations through this transition that we have to make to renewable energy, to a sustainable future. And to be perfectly honest, that's really exciting for me to wake up every day and know that we're able to contribute to something that's so important. So we have the Maritime.
You found your why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we have the Maritime side, but we have these other whys that have come out too. Yeah.
I asked that to our team members as well. And there's a popular actor in a commercial here for a coffee company. And the question's like, what's your reason for waking up in the morning?
Yeah.
And you just heard David's reason for waking up in the morning for sustainability, right? It's really long-term thinking and planning ahead.
Yeah.
And I think we need the young people to understand the importance of it, and maybe also tickle their brains in this aspect. So, okay, I have a question. Yeah. What does it take to be head of data of Vessel Tracker? What did you study? What's the competence needed to be in a company like Vessel Tracker?
Yeah, so I actually studied environmental engineering, but I didn't end up working in that field. But actually, environmental engineering is all about taking, nature and what it does and turning it into things that you want to do with it. So I was actually involved in renewable energy, where you would take actually manure and corn and stuff, and you put them in a digester and turn it into energy. So that's, some of those skills that I've learned have helped me in dealing with humans who are also organisms that need to be directed. But, I think...
How does working with manure?
Sorry, that was a horrible parallel. But I think, so I think engineering is a great thing to study. I've noticed when I've run into engineers, there's a certain way of thinking about how can I take this problem apart, put it back together. I know Scott has an audio engineering background. So, I noticed with him, he has that problem solving mentality. What are the different pieces? What are the pieces that really cause the most impact? How can I maximize those pieces? How can I minimize those pieces? And especially when we have a small team in Germany working on a network in 150 different countries, you really have to target your efforts in the areas that make the most effort. So I started off just really recruiting AIS partners. I was on the phone a lot. I was calling them up. I was going to conferences, meeting people like Marianne and saying, you should work with Vessel Tracker. That's how I started. But over time, I ended up working more and more and ended up managing the team. And now I'm working in the whole data side. And it's not just AIS. We have information about ship owners and managers. We have information about, as we were talking about, geofencing. So we can not only tell you that a vessel was at this location, we can also tell you, well, that's the port of Manila or Batangas or Cebu. And we can tell you when that vessel left that port, because we know that was the geofence and it left it at this time. Okay, how does that compare to the schedule? Was it delayed? Was it on time? So all of that data is managed in my team. And I would say, it's maybe something that people have heard before, but teamwork really makes the dream work.
Teamwork, did you say teamwork makes the dream work?
Makes the dream work. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at, you really can't expect any one person to have all the answers, and you shouldn't. It should really be a collaboration. If you look at our skills here, we have, May has the local knowledge. She has the ability to communicate with people in different languages and to speak not only their language, but how do they want to be spoken to, and what's the way that we can help them achieve their goals that are also the goals that we need to achieve as an organization. Scott has the audio engineering skills. He has lots of technical skills. He's actually got a lot of experience on the ground where Scott can come to us and say, can come to the Vessel Tracker team and have more experience than some of us have ever seen, because the Philippines is a very difficult environment. You have a very specific electrical grid. You have very warm temperatures. And you have
unreliable internet.
Exactly. So basically, putting things through that system is essentially a form of stress testing it. And Scott's got a lot of experience that then he passes back to my team. We have technical people on my team that know things that I don't know, but my job is to make sure that what are the questions that aren't being asked that need to be asked. I think that's the most important thing, is to figure out where are we not focusing that we should be focusing, and where are we focusing our efforts. And I happen to be doing that in the data space. I think it's probably something for you as a business owner. You also probably have more things that you could ever do with your time, and it's an important skill to figure out where is the area. And you obviously everyone, as they advance in their careers, can benefit from learning how to work with other people and work together as a team. And that's how you really, there's another saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go as a team, right? And I think that's the, long-winded answer is saying, teamwork and collaboration is I think a huge key to success.
You want to add to that?
Well, I was going to say, if I was going to recruit me for or someone to replace me, I wouldn't necessarily be looking at that if they had IT skills or any technical skills like that. I would look for a person that has great problem solving skills, because there isn't a manual for the job. It's about going there and eliminating one at a time what could be the problem. So that's a bigger skill and a better skill for me than having a computer qualification or anything like that. And ideally, they'd have a partner like May, who can be the call center. May is the voice of Vessel Tracker in the Philippines. May's the one that makes the phone calls when the antenna's offline. May's the one that opens doors when the door won't open. So I would be hard pressed to do my job without May by my side. Yeah. And I think we complement each other, because I hate talking to people on the phone. I can talk to them face to face, but on the phone I hate it, and it doesn't seem to bother her. So we're a very complementary team.
I think you also said some of the messages you sent needed to be toned down a little bit.
Yeah, occasionally I can be very frustrated.
Yeah, the culture of Filipino. No?
Yeah.
So you're providing that. So we heard about the importance of teamwork. As David said, teamwork makes the dream work. And this is a team, husband and wife team, working on the Vessel Tracker. And I guess I'm hearing you, Scott. I'm hearing that we should be choosing the right partner in life. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. To get the job done, you gotta choose the right partner. Tama ba? I'm talking Tagalog to the David. I've been doing it the whole day. So choosing the right partner. Yeah? So when we're talking about choosing the right partner, I think we found a good partner here in Vessel Tracker and FastCat. And because we're happy with the partnership and we're able to see the benefit of it, we actually shared this technology to our friends in the industry and in the country, like Philippine Coast Guard and the Philippine National Police Maritime Group, because they're also operating in the maritime space. They oversee our maritime discipline, crimes, like mga fishing activities, mga illegal fishing, unregulated fishing. Yeah, these are the
use cases.
Yeah, cases and the activities of the police. And And we're happy to share that because we shared the technology with the Philippine National Police Maritime Group, they had already installed also several antennas in the Philippines to help them do their job. But maybe I'll backtrack some more, that, I serve as advisor. I told you I'd serve as an advisor in the Philippine National Police Advisory Group. I was working with Attorney Jay Batong Bakal. I hope you know him, and he's very prominent in the maritime circle, heading the UP Maritime Institute. And he was in a conference abroad, I think it was Stanford, and he met a general there, which you met, General Powell.
Yep.
And General Powell approached Attorney Jay Batong Bakal and said, "Hey, Attorney Jay, I'd refer to you a company who you can tap to help you in your geopolitical issues in the Philippines." And so they had a meeting, and that was Vessel Tracker. And so Vessel Tracker said, "Oh, I've been working with FastCat for a while now, and yes, we can work together." And so Attorney Jay, who's my co-advisor there, said, "Hey, Marianne, let's help the police get this." And yeah, so far we had it. We made it. So, Scott, can you tell our Anytime Maritimers how many antennas have been installed and being used by the Maritime Police? Not that we are sharing the data, but no specific data, but we're just saying that they are using it in their in their job, in their surveillance, in their regulatory activities. So, how many? Many?
I have six. From in the north in Pangasinan, in the south Surigao, on Palawan, and a sneaky little one out in the Pag-asa Island.
Also in the Pag-asa Island. See? And the geopolitical issues, it's helping them. And also fisher folks. Is Vessel Tracker helping fisher folks?
It's not our key area because we really do focus mostly beyond maritime operations on the energy and commodities.
Yeah.
But definitely AIS in general is definitely something that fishing is a very interesting application for it. I think Vessel Tracker, especially with our terrestrial stations, we're more a little bit focused on the coastal areas. But there are some providers of satellite data, for example, that receive the same data as us, but via satellites. And because a lot of fishing happens just further out to sea, those have tended to be the companies that are most focused on fishing. But there's a lot to see there, and as you mentioned, irregular and unregulated fishing is a significant problem, and it's a problem that there wasn't much transparency on. And through AIS, first of all, we were able to see, okay, this fishing vessel was here, then it went to that vessel, and it came back, fished some more, went back to that vessel, and then maybe even another time, and then it goes to port and says, "Oh, I only fished this much," but actually there was 2 or 3 other cargoes that it didn't report. So that was early days. Then some of the vessels started to turn off their AIS,
yes.
But then authorities were able to say, "Well, that vessel turned off its AIS. That's suspicious. So the next time it comes into port, we're gonna inspect it and see what's going on." So it's a bit of a cat and mouse game.
So that's how the AIS helps regulators with these illegal activities, illegal fishing.
Exactly, and I guess the point is that even if people are sabotaging your efforts to track them, the fact that they're sabotaging is evidence of something going on, and then so the actors that are behaving, in a regulatory compliant way, they don't do that. And so it's essentially, if you're looking for a needle in a haystack, AIS can help you take out a bunch of hay so that you have a smaller haystack to find the needle in. So it's really exciting stuff. There's new technologies being combined, like satellite photography has gotten to be much, in the 12 years since I've been here, it's gone from really not that great to very detailed. And so some investigators are using AIS again to kind of, take out a bunch of hay, and then they have a small haystack, and they can use satellite imagery. They can use other types of, because satellites, issue with photography is that sometimes it's cloudy, and so there's other types of satellites that can can kind of pierce through the clouds and see what's going on. So really exciting stuff. There's a lot going on in the satellite industry that, all this technology can come together, and we can really make a dent in the illegal activity and the illegal fishing.
Yeah. So I have a question. Would you know if there's an existing law or regulation about the use of AIS?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a IMO convention, International Maritime Organization, and it's interesting you mentioned airplanes because they actually have a similar tracking system that AIS. That actually the airplane version was developed first, then came AIS. But similar principle is that they have to install a transponder, and that sends out this data. And in the early 2000s, the IMO mandated that that all vessels above a certain size on international voyages needed to have the AIS installed. And what that means is that so if you're on an international voyage,
you must have AIS.
And you're a commercial vessel above, I believe, 300 tons, you must have it.
So there's a regulation that AIS must be installed on vessels 300 GRT and above.
I believe it's GRT.
Okay. Yeah, gross tonnage and above.
There's like a few. It's roughly that. I think there's it has to be on international voyages. There's a few little details there, but it's essentially that all commercial vessels really must have AIS on board. Yeah.
So it's for safety, security, operational efficiency, for maritime search and rescue.
Yeah.
All of those are uses of this. But I've heard that some of the fishing, commercial fishing companies are against the use of AIS because they're saying that fishing is like a hunting game.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's AIS, it's like they are exposing themselves and showing competitors where they are actually fishing.
Yeah.
So while other countries are actually implementing the use of AIS, some countries would not, use it or follow it because of that. So what's your take on that? On fishing?
I think there's a focus from the fishing industry on that spying, or the regulatory organisations want to know what we're doing because they think we're doing something illegal. I think the focus for the fishing needs to be, certainly around the Philippines, should be changed to a focus on safety. I think early last year, a fishing vessel was run over about 85 nautical miles west of Pangasinan. Now, the big tanker that ran over him wouldn't have even known he was there because it was one of the wooden banker type fishing vessels,
boat,
the big ones that have the little guys go out and fish. And they were all off fishing, and there was 3 on the boat. They got run down, and the 3 were drowned. Because the radar operator on the bridge would not have necessarily recognised the wooden banker as actually a vessel. So they might have thought it was a flock of birds sitting on the water or anything.
Maybe it happened at night.
And it was at night time.
Nighttime. So accidents happen at night.
That was at night. Now, if that fishing vessel had AIS, the tanker would have seen that fishing vessel on their AIS, been able to either radio the vessel and let them know that they needed to move because the tanker was too big to manoeuvre, or if they were far enough away, they could make a course adjustment and miss that vessel, and 3 fishermen would be still alive.
Exactly.
And there's many incidents like that, in and around the Philippines. Another one, there was some fishermen lost, I think, in the Bohol Sea. They did eventually find them, fortunately, but on that occasion. But once again, with AIS, it would have been possible to identify where they were and execute a rescue. So, I think if the authorities take a more we want to make it safer for you
Yeah.
approach. And the fishermen start to think it's going to be a lot safer if I have that, then we'll have a much safer fishing industry.
But I think that's a question. The question is the cost, because they're saying AIS is expensive. So they do. That's an excuse for not putting it in the.
It's actually getting cheaper and
Yeah,
cheaper
it's
and
getting
cheaper
cheaper
almost
now.
by the day.
Yeah.
Um,
With the advent of technology.
Yeah.
As the technology improves, and for a fishing vessel, they only need a smaller class B AIS, which is again a much cheaper option.
That's good news. That's good news. David and I met in a worldwide ferry safety conference in New York, and over time, Roberta, the executive director, invited me to sit in the board, and so I sit in the board. And now we have a project. We were in Indonesia last year in Institute Surabaya, Institute Teknika Sepula 11. I cannot pronounce their Indonesian name, but it's in Surabaya. And we worked with their BKMG, or their weather regulator, BKMG. And that was one topic, because there's data. Lloyd's Register Foundation published a book called The Safer World.
Mm-hmm.
And there's data that if in the ferry world we lost some 3,000 lives 1 year, or 1,000 lives now, I forget. But in the fishing community, fisher folks, about 100,000 per year, 100,000 lives lost. Why? Because they have wooden boats, they don't have this automatic identification system. So they're relying on their intuition if they will go out, and suddenly weather happens, and then they perish. So there's a move now to put this AIS and help the fisher folks have this, and help them so that we save 100,000 lives.
Yeah.
So do you think the price will go down, and is it easy to use? Is it user friendly? Will it be user friendly for fisher folks in the coming years?
It's very easy to use, and there's some interesting examples. I think the Lloyd's Register Foundation was involved in them as well. And shout out to Roberta, who's
Roberta.
The source of, first of all, the source of us meeting each other,
Yes.
and played a huge role in us being where we are today.
Yes.
But also for a lot of good work that she does,
Yes.
not just only on ferry safety, although that has been a big focus
Yes.
for her, obviously, but also now with fishermen's lives. So I've been in contact with her and some AIS hardware manufacturers. And there's been some really interesting situations where I think this is in Africa, and I believe it was South Africa and somewhere in West Africa, that they had some examples of solar-powered, really wooden boats, as you mentioned. So they just put a solar panel, and that's what powers the AIS transponder.
Oh, yeah.
And there's different ways you can do it. There's as Scott mentioned, there's Class B, so in AIS, there's Class A, which is intended for the big boats. They transmit about 6 times the power as the Class B, which is the smaller boats, and that was intended so that smaller boats like sailboats that didn't want to get run over, that wouldn't show up on the radar, they could still transmit to the big vessel, "Hey, I'm here, don't run me over." But also pleasure crafts, as I mentioned, but also fishing vessels can use them, and so I think it's surprising what a little bit of data and a little bit of information can do. And what's happening in South Africa is the harbor master is basically, it's like his flock of ducks, essentially, that he sees on his screen. And if any of the ducks are in danger, he can radio them, and he can say, hey, we see a storm coming in, or we see this dangerous situation, please come here and do that. Or if there's a rescue situation, those rescue boats have a lot of area to cover on the water, and if you can provide an AIS position that's a couple of minutes ago, or even half an hour ago, that can be the difference between life and death, and getting out there and saving them. Or other vessels nearby, being able to pitch in and help, which is a lovely thing about the maritime industry. Is in general, if somebody's in danger, the rest of the vessels nearby have a. I believe it's a sort of a sailor's
code.
Sailor's code. Yeah.
Sailor's code.
Yeah, yeah.
There's also now VHF radios that have AIS built into them, so they don't need.
So when
to
you
have
carry when you have the VHF, it's already the
you
AIS.
don't need to have two
good.
devices. It uses one antenna on the boat, so you don't have to have two antennas. You don't have to have two sets of antenna cables. You don't have to have the power to run two. If you have the VHF radio with the AIS, you have both.
Yeah, and there's different ways of funding it. So some countries, for example, have said, okay, because it's for these people, a lot of them income is an issue. They don't just have a couple $100s to spend on one of these things. So the way the governments in some locations have done this is they've said, we will give you this for free, but we will charge a fishing license, your yearly fishing license for so and so many fished quota. We'll increase the rate slightly so that we get this back over a period of time. So it's different ways that you can model it. Or if a government wants to get involved and help, I think AIS is a great solution for reasons we've talked about. There are other fishing tracking solutions that are private, so that you can have an app on your phone or something like that. So I don't want to act like AIS is the be all end all. I think there's definitely some benefits to the fishing industry, some downsides that you've mentioned. People are saying, I don't want to share my fishing hole, so to say. I don't want it to be gone. But I don't think it's fair to ask fishermen to go out there and fish in difficult, dangerous weather, crazy weather waters, and to put their lives on the line. If we can do something different, I think it's probably up to us as a society to offer something different. So
yeah. So maybe for those of you who are listening, we were talking about helping the Philippine National Police Maritime Group, the Philippine Coast Guard have this vessel tracker feature, and maybe they're thinking, oh, it's business for me or for Coast Guard. No, this is really a partnership where vessel tracker is not charging us or the government agency, but it's really a partnership that it's a win-win. You wanna share with our audience how the partnership works?
Yeah.
Because maybe they want to understand. And maybe the next question, David, I wanted to ask is, okay, so if I'm listening, if I'm a maritime student, if I'm listening, if I am a owner of a small boat, or a yacht, or a boat, or maybe a fishing boat, and you're talking about vessel tracking, you're talking about fishing, can I use vessel tracker? How do I use vessel tracker? If I'm a business, if I'm in the insurance space, how do I use vessel tracker? How do I access vessel tracker?
Yeah. Okay. So, the relationship with the Coast Guard is based on the exact same principle that vessel tracker has followed for essentially 20 years almost now, which is, if you install a vessel tracker station and you help improve the network, then you get access to an advanced vessel tracker account for free. And that's our model has worked really well. We have partners all over the world, and the best partners are the partners that are somehow, for some reason, interested in using that data for their daily business, whether it be business, or some of our best partners are actually hobbyists who just love to track vessels. So actually,
really,
So,
there's a group here.
Yeah.
That ship pitik.
Yeah.
So ship pitik, that's what they do. They are ship watchers.
Yeah.
Like kung meron pong bird watching, merong ship spotters.
Ship spotters. Exactly.
Yeah. So they use your platform.
They use our platform, and as I said, these are some of the most active and engaged partners that I've ever seen. And sometimes they found, one of the guys found a bug on our website where developers just couldn't believe that you found that. It was this weird thing where the latitude and longitude would go up and then it would go down and go up again. And he said, how did you find this? Well, he found it because he was just using Vessel Tracker all the time, looking at everything that's going on. and realizing it. So we get some great feedback from our partners that helps us learn and see what's going on in the data, see what's going on in our product. So long story short, that's our model, and it works really well. And essentially, our relationship with the PCG is just that on a bigger scale. So we are working with them on a wider scale. They're installing a bunch of AIS stations, and we're giving them a bunch of free access to use Vessel Tracker. And in terms of, so we do actually, Vessel Tracker is, we haven't really commercially as a strategy, we haven't targeted the masses. We've tended to target commercial operators. We tend to target people who are power users of AIS data. So we do have if you go to vesseltracker.com, you can sign up for a free account. The free account has restricted access to passenger vessels only. But what we do have is, again, if you work with us as a partner, then you have access to all of the data from all of our AIS antenna network. And we have, as I mentioned, a whole bunch of other data about ship owners and all this sort of thing. That's also, only included in the, the next level, not the free account, but the next level up. And then, yeah, I mean, if users want to, if listeners want to get involved, you can go to the community page on our website, and that's where we have our information on our partnerships and our photo community. So real quick is, not only do we have this AIS data, we have lots of photographers, ship spotters, a lot of them, who take pictures of the vessels and upload them. And that's, again, if you upload a certain number of photos, then we grant free access to advanced features. And the photo community is great, because that really brings the website to life. When you see a photo of the vessel, it really brings everything.
Yeah, they're really people who are so interested, the way they're interested in planes or cars or motorcycles or animals.
Exactly.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you answered that. So for our maritime students, young maritime students who are interested to see real life pictures of ships, models, they could go also to Vessel Tracker to.
Yeah, so the photos are all there. I think, I mean, we do have, as I said, the basic account is free access. And what would be interesting is if this is something that we can work. We're just, I think, in the early days here in the Philippines. I think there's a lot of training, a lot of vessel manning that's kind of starts in the Philippines, with people going to different colleges and different institutes, and I think it would be really exciting to partner with some of those institutes.
Because what I believe in is, if we expose our young learners about technology and its use, that will also elevate the way they can deliver, their improve their skills and deliver the service and the work, the kind of output.
So I think AIS data is really the starting point of a lot of interesting conversations that you can have it shows you what's happening in the maritime world. It shows you where all the vessels are, where they're going. You can pull up a historical track. Vessel Tracker, we save every single message we've received, and we've been doing this for 12 years now. So we have really great data on what's happening out there, and you can, if there's an incident or a near miss or an accident.
So for students, for maritime investigators, so Coast Guard, when they want to really be good and great in what they do, depends on the department, whether it's maritime safety, whether it's law, maritime law, legal, or search and rescue. I have a question that I need you to clarify, David, because when I had a conversation before about the use of this, and they were saying, what about data privacy, especially that in the Philippines, the Data Privacy Act was just signed into law, maybe fresh, like maybe the last 10 years or less. So are the people using Vessel Tracker violating any of the Data Privacy Act when they use this?
So short answer is no.
Okay.
And that's because our legal team is very on top of all relevant legal issues around the world. I think, if you're a commercial vessel, let's say 200 meters long, with the ability to run over a pleasure craft or a fishing vessel, I think there shouldn't be an expectation of privacy. I think the world should know where you are. I think that question gets maybe a little bit muddier if we're talking about a pleasure craft operator, but I think it's really become clear. Everything in society is about costs and benefits. I think the benefits of that pleasure craft being visible to the people around them, being visible to search and rescue operators, being visible to anyone who can help, essentially, is I think a significant benefit that shouldn't be overlooked. And if you're a pleasure craft operator, you are not required to keep your AIS on unless a coastal authority says you have to, right? So each country has its different rules. They might say, in this area, which is perhaps a very congested waterway, we require everyone traveling through here, no matter the size of their vessel, to have their AIS on, in which case you should follow the local laws, and you could be fined or worse for not following them. But I think that's something that needs to be figured out in those edge cases. But I think in the benefits to society of knowing where these large vessels are is really outweighs any of the costs of privacy. So, yeah.
So no violation of the Data Privacy Act.
And I think if you think of the AIS data that the vessel is transmitting is the same as the license plate on your car, you can't drive your car around and cover up your license plate. So that information is public information. There's a lot of identifiable information from a plate number on a car. So, but you're not allowed to cover it up. So if you think of it that way, no, it's not. And as far as our antenna partners go, we don't divulge any information about those. The PMP, when we had a meeting with them, were a little bit concerned, and I explained to them, we don't tell people who owns the antenna. Obviously, we know the position, but on our application, there's no identification that says this vessel was detected by this antenna.
Yeah.
It's just.
So it's not going to pinpoint whose antenna is it that spotted this or how you spotted it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not beneficial for the the cost of privacy there would outweigh the benefits. I think I don't know what the benefits would be, but
well, saving lives, right? Saving lives.
Sorry, I mean on the antenna partners. Yeah. So the people who are installing stations, I think, have a right to privacy if they want it, and that's how we built our system, so that we don't show the exact locations of where the reception of the signals is going.
Yeah.
So. In fact, I think it was the Coast Guard asked me, is there a way that we can see which of our antennas detected a vessel? And that the short answer to that is no, because there may be a number of antennas in the area, and that data could have been detected by any one of those antennas.
So I was saying earlier that exposure to technology will advance the skill of the worker, and of course leverage on technology.
Yeah.
So how do you see Vessel Tracker moving forward, or what kind of improvements are you looking at, or can happen?
Yeah.
As we go along.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we still have a bit of a ways to go in just simply installing more coverage to cover more interesting areas. So we've come a long way in the Philippines. We still have, now that we've signed this MOU, we have some expansion we have planned there, and all of that will, in and of itself, be a good thing, and it'll be a big leap forward in terms of what it enables. If you have sort of a patchwork of coverage in different areas, your analysis you don't have that same confidence in your analysis as if you have really good coverage everywhere. So really good coverage is a big quality improvement in and of itself. I think, as I mentioned, I'm really excited about the role we play in Wood Mackenzie. So we have ambitious goals at Wood Mackenzie, and a lot of it is, to touch on a theme that you, I know is passionate for you, is taking the data from different places and putting it together. So not only is our AS data is being used on the maritime side, but actually our analysts are using it to understand energy markets, to understand different markets, putting it together with other sensor data that Wood Mackenzie has and other industry data or other analyst experience that we can really point to a pathway for society to move to the energy transition in a, as low cost as possible, as efficient as possible. So that's, I don't know, I think that's very exciting. I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this here, but AI is obviously just stormed into our society. It's affecting so many things.
Exactly.
And I think there's some really interesting, all of that AI really needs reliable data to work with. And if we have really good, the more coverage we have and the more extensive the coverage, I think the more interesting applications we can bring to it. I think there's some really interesting ways we can analyze vessel movements, specific types of vessels that will enable the human side a little bit more. So it's really early days.
Meant to help us do better, and with all this available data.
Yeah, it's really early. I'll just say it's a bit early days for us on the AI side, but Wood Mackenzie has big plans there, and I think stay tuned for more. So yeah.
Quite exciting, really exciting. And so now that you, who's that? See, AI is listening and talking to us. Whose phone is that? Somebody's phone is listening to us, and then it's now talking. Yan po ang power ng AI. So, David, is that your phone? Whose phone is that?
My phone.
Oh, see, it's Scott's phone. It's listening in our conversation and now talking to him about something. Ayan po, power of AI. It's so intelligent that it listened to our conversation and now interpreting and talking to you, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What is it saying, Scott?
I don't know. I turned it off very fast.
Yeah, so we were talking about AI because I here in
That's why I made it do it. So we're moving to AI.
Oh my God! So here in my office, I joke about it that AI is my new best friend. No? Open AI, or for me, I use ChatGPT because not only because I'm studying, I'm using it for research. I'm using it for research, and it's doing things for me that normally would take a lot of time.
Yeah.
And some people are still adamantly using it because they feel, uneasy because it feels like, are we cheating? Is it going to make people's jobs lost?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you look at it? How do you look at AI? Let's talk about AI. Anyway, AI is listening to us. David.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some very, very validated concerns.
Yeah.
And I think we need to make sure we do things the right way. I personally have used ChatGPT quite a lot. So one of my favorite use cases is if I'm cooking something, or I look in my fridge and that has to go, or a whole bunch of whatever mushrooms or something. What can I make that's So then I
Really? You
yeah, so,
asked AI
yeah, so I
that?
asked AI and it comes back with suggestions and
Wow!
yeah, so it's-
Practical application.
so it's been great on a lot of like personal productivity type
I love
things.
that.
Also at work. So at work we are I'm part of Microsoft Copilot. So Copilot is also like the Microsoft version of AI, and I think
Oh,
yeah.
it's called Copilot.
Copilot, yeah. And so what's been really exciting is that so at the beginning there was a situation at Samsung where engineers were typing in some questions in a chat GPT, and by default the data was going back, and then other people from other companies were asking questions about a similar thing, and because of what chat GPT knew, those people could figure out what Samsung engineers were doing. So that showed a very valid security risk as well. And so what a lot of companies are doing is having sandboxed AI, so that that AI is not interacting with, it can't get out into a competitive situation that's bad for the company. So yeah, so what now in our company we have safe to use Copilot, and I had an interesting situation again, personal productivity. I work in Germany, our lawyers are in the UK, and I have to deal with some German legal documents, and I was just like, oh no, I have to translate these and explain it. And I said, wait a sec, I have AI, and I uploaded them. And I said, can you summarize this in English? And it was
2 seconds.
2 seconds. And you do have to double check it. It's not always 100% accurate, but I did check it, and the summary was good. So it was, it saved me a bunch of time. And I know,
Exactly.
yeah, that's
So
sort of
a bunch of time. Yeah.
saves a bunch of time. I think if you use it properly, it can be like a very polite, very smart assistant that you
I
can
call
ask
it my best friend.
Yeah, general knowledge, right?
Yes,
And,
yes.
yeah, and I think it's becoming astonishingly better. So
Yeah.
I think there, just to bring it back full circle, I think there's very valid questions about how this is going to affect our society that we need to take seriously. I don't think we should just fully plow into the unknown and assume everything's going to be okay, because that might not be the case, and it would be bad if some of the things you hear about how it might end up are not so good looking. But I think we can't close the worst thing to do is close your eyes and put your head in the sand.
Ignore it, or not use it. Eventually you will have to, because everyone will be turning to AI. What's your take on that, Scott? And,
I'm not
Dave?
using it at the moment because
Oh,
I don't trust it.
Okay.
No, I haven't had enough. I probably don't really have much use for it, but now that you say I can sort out what's in the fridge and come up with a recipe.
Yeah.
True. I do that. Sometimes I talk to them when I'm alone at home. Funny story. But this was years back, before AI happened. It was still Siri. I was alone at home and I go, hey Siri, do you love me? And Siri replied, I am not capable of love.
Siri improved from that because she'd start singing.
Yeah, now. So yeah, it can do you a lot. Like sing me a song, or write me a whatever, or write a playlist, whatever. So it has really advanced, and it's also exciting. You've been talking about how exciting it is. Well, this is exciting too. Yeah, some people really don't like it yet, and they don't trust it, like Scott. But yeah, hey, this is a reality now.
Yeah, and I think, you're guaranteed if you fully avoid it and never try it,
Yeah.
then you're probably not going to like it. But if you do try it, then I think you can at least appreciate what's happening. And I think it's professionally, unless you're retiring in the next year or two, I think you probably it's going to impact your professional life somehow.
Yeah, even businesses, because
Yeah.
we started a meeting already, how we can use AI in our business for like repetitive things, like customer service, like if people call to ask the schedule of trips, lodging complaints, of course data. We talked about it at length this afternoon. We did not waste time when David is here. Since he arrived, he has no time to be jet lagged. but working all day really early. In fact, we're heading to dinner soon. So we will have to wrap up this show. And you want to leave some closing message to our Anytime Maritimers, David and Scott? And I'm not gonna ask May anymore because May said she is camera shy.
Give her a phone and she'll talk.
She needs a phone.
So
Okay.
she'll call in for
Okay.
episode 2. Yeah.
First time in the podcast. Yeah. So anyway, parting words before we say goodbye to our Anytime Maritimers.
Keep your ears open, your mind open to new ideas.
Wow. Okay, that's concise. I think that's great, though. Yeah, I would say, I think, yeah, we're still there's so much happening. I think it's really, don't think you know everything, and be ready to be surprised. And it's just, stay tuned into the stuff that's happening and changing. And in particular, it's a great opportunity for me to get to know the Philippines better, and to learn. This is a great maritime country. It's an island country, hugely overrepresented in the seafaring community. And I think there's a lot to be proud of about what's happening in the country. I think FastCat is a big part of what's going well in the country. Credit to the Pastrana family for making ferry safety a huge priority, so that really people now have a chance to travel much more safely and conveniently between the different islands. So Marianne's always got a lot going on. Every time I meet her or talk to her, I'm learning something new she's involved in. And I would definitely stay tuned, I think. And this is my first Anytime Maritime episode, so I'm going to go back and look at the catalog and see which episodes I missed that I should be listening to.
This is like 70-second. You have a lot of catching up to do. Yeah. So David, I thank you very much for spending time with Anytime Maritime and having this intelligent conversation, sharing to our viewers Vessel Tracker, what it does, and giving them a better understanding. We truly appreciate the partnership that it provides safety redundancy for our operations, so that we become very safe, very safe, very fast, and very convenient with the partnership with Vessel Tracker. Scott and May, thank you so much for putting up all the antennas and ensuring that it's up. Scott is really on top of it, always emailing me if there's an antenna that's down, because this is there's software and hardware, and Scott is making sure that the hardware is also well maintained and used, so that we can use it in our operations. So they're very hard at work on top of it and keeping the communication lines open. And you heard it, that they spent a lot of time in the islands, in the far islands, isolated islands, just to install these antennas and to keep it working. This is really hard work too. Technology also involves hard work, but the benefit outweighs more than all the hard work and effort and the heavy lifting that we are doing. So, Anytime Maritimers, I hope you enjoyed another episode of Anytime Maritime and joined our intelligent conversation and bring home with you a lot of knowledge and challenge to try AI if you haven't. I tell you, I find myself smiling, beaming, and talking to it after a chat. I go, oh my God, you're really my best friend. You're really smart. And AI was introduced to me by my son, Matthew, last year when I went to New York, visited them. He says, Mom, have you heard of ChatGPT? And we had a whole conversation going, and that got me into it. And now I'm using it, and I'm so happy. Anyway, that's just a conversation that I hope you learned and you got inspired from. So Hey, can I invite you to join me in saying anytime maritime for our
Absolutely.
viewers? So at the count of 1, so I'll do 3, 2, 1, and then we say anytime maritime. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Anytime Maritime.
Yay! Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Anytime Maritime.
Anytime.